Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Spiritual Side of Virginia. We are going to start today by reading a message titled Self is Obsession by the Spirit André Luiz through the medium Chico Xavier. And the message says, if you can already master mental intemperance, if you forget your own constraints to cultivate the pleasure of serving, if you know how to cultivate an unfortunate comment without passing it on, if you overcome the indisposition again to study and remain, as much as possible, in contact with constructive reading, if you sincerely forget sorrows, maintaining an understanding and cordial spirit before offenders, if you accept yourself as you are, with the difficulties and conflicts you have, working with everything you cannot change, if you persevere in carrying out your ennobling purposes, despite everything that is done and said against you, if you understand that others have the right to experience the kind of happiness to which they are inclined, as it happens to us, if you believe and practice the principle that only by helping others will we be helped, if you are capable of suffering and fighting in the harvest of the good without bringing along a bitter and intolerant heart, then you will be taking major steps towards freeing yourself from the shadow, definitely entering into the work of self-disobsession.
So let us feel God. Why do we want to talk to God at all? Why? Does it really matter? Does it? Does it make a difference? Who is the owner of life? It's not a who, because God is not a person.
It's
It.
It's
Yes, right? Because it's not he, it's not she, right? Virginia, right? So God is it. Yes. We'll say G. So it's so important to have a relationship with God. And that's why we pray. To communicate with the one that gives us life, who created us, that created us, and sustains us for purposes that we are yet to understand. So we rejoice. We're talking with the owner of the universe. Wow, the most powerful of all, the source of life. God, we are so happy to know of you. Life makes sense now. When we look at ourselves in the mirror and we find you, because we did not create ourselves, and we are learning the purposes of our lives. We're so happy to feel you, to be with you, and the honor because you created us to co-create with you. We're literally wowed by it, for we're still unfolding new understanding. Thank you for creating us, for sustaining us. We incarnates and discarnates right here, the Spirit is Society of Virginia and Cardiac Radio. We feel deeply grateful and willing to learn more and to be treated by your loving messengers who are here. The spirit doctors, the nurses, and the therapists who are constantly caring for everyone. May today They find an easy pathway through us, treating our wounds, strengthening ourselves, and fortifying our mental homes so we can be better co-creators with you. For those who have their names in the book of prayer, we hope that they receive the help that they need today and always. And so be it. All right, so inside, more fun for you guys. Mental Connections Part 2 with lollipops.
Now we're talking.
Wow. Now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Lollipops.
There will be interesting
Super
mental connections there. Yeah.
Enjoy. Make sure, Carol, the teas get the lollipops.
Okay. Sure.
Please,
We'll
thank
do.
you.
We'll do. Not a problem.
Yeah, right?
Of course.
All right. All right. Actually. Today we're talking about a topic that seems negative, but actually is very empowering. Okay? In the affirmations you've received, there are parts of the message that Felipe read, right? Pay attention to the one you've received and work on it, because it's not by chance. This is about self-disobsession. Okay, so Daisy and I will share some studies and tools to empower us. But we want to begin with a true story. And this is from the book Liberation by André Luiz through Chico Xavier. Listen to the title, Liberation. If we're feeling shackled, tied up, read that book. If you don't want to read, we have the podcast at Kardec Radio at SoundCloud about the book. In this book, chapter 11, there is a story of a police detective. A police detective, true story, who was already at his aging years, okay? And the good spirits came to help him out. He was not well at all. And the good spirits described the following, that he was not doing well. He had serious mental problems. And this is already in his aging years. When we are younger, we feel like out and about doing stuff as if there is no tomorrow. But if we get to older years, the aging years, everything we've done sinks in. So if we want to have a truly fulfilled older life in this life, we better show well in this life. This man, he was cruel. He used to humiliate and hurt others. André Luiz described that he had managed to avoid remorse for a few years. As a police detective, he was cruel. He used to be bully, right? He was a bully. Putting people down. In our society in the United States, we appreciate some form of sarcasm, thinking it's comedy. It's not at all. At the end of the day, this comes to us, and I see children, teenagers, who are very upset with their parents because the parents are sarcastic. And they think, I'm just kidding. It's not. For your children, it's not a game. Children and teens believe in the words you say. Later, the parents will be very sad about it themselves. There are teenagers who want to quit life because the parents were not very nice to them. As I told one of them this week, I said, look, not in our center, in our practice. I said, look, I understand you. It's hard. Think it's your life. But I hate my parents. I said, but whether your parents made a mistake or not, you're making a worse mistake by quitting life. Because it's your life at the end of the day. Use your brain before your emotions and think, build a life, and do better. By quitting your life, you're just going to complicate your life. If you commit suicide, you're going to reincarnate. In 200 years, you're going to reincarnate in terrible conditions for quite a while. When you see miscarriages happening, sometimes suicidal spirits come and they spend a few weeks in a mother's womb, but it doesn't complete itself. But it's helping, that attempt of reincarnation is helping rebuild the perispiritual tissue. So miscarriages are not a bad thing. It's not a mistake of nature. It's an attempt to rebuild a spiritual body. Don't be sad because you helped. Maybe helped somebody we pushed to the abyss. They are rebuilding their perispiritual tissue. And then sometimes a life that lasts for a few years only. Years that we trashed out in previous lives. Till the day we will be able to repair it. Usually it takes 200 years for a suicidal spirit to begin the reparation of the damages that he did to himself and to people. This man was a bully. He humiliated people. He hurted people. What happened to him? For a few years, he avoided remorse. But each thought of indignation by his victims began to circle around his mind. See? His cruel ways attracted not only the anger of a lot of people, but also the constant company of the worst kind of spirits who ruined his mental life. When the time came for him to look back on his life, in the intimacy of the early symptoms of the old age, remorse opened a huge breach in the fortress in which he had become entrenched. He goes on and on and on, talking about how we keep ourselves in these ways, and later it comes back to us. The people we hurt add to the pile. The spirits alike add even more. Inevitably, we'll find ourselves in bad scenarios, not only in this reincarnation, but in the life continuum. So this is one case of self-obsession. This is going to tell you another. What is it? So first of all, if we go to the Spirit's book by Kardec, question 195, when he asks, what's the worst imperfection? Self-interest. It's always this, what is in for me? And we teach our children to do this, right? We don't teach Virginia, but many people teach that to their children. Go there, get it for you. Go. Self-interest, it's the worst advice. And that's why many people come to a Spiritist center and they're like, I'm not so sure why I'm here. Because they haven't found what is in for them there yet. I'm not so sure why I'm here. Because they are so used to going places out of their self-interest that when they come, somebody brought them and they don't know yet what is in for them. They don't know why they're here. Because they're driven by self-interest. This is the worst imperfection. This man was all about him, ego, self-absorption. Always. If you go to a store, you know what you want. So you find yourself in there, right? But if I take any man here to Bath Body Works, you're going to look at me and say, Vanessa, why am I here, right? Because you're like, I don't care about candles. I don't care about this hand creams and stuff, right? Right? But if somebody's used not to being so self-absorbed, they would come and say, oh, okay, you like this store? Okay, let me see why you like it. Maybe it's not for them, but they are happy to see you happy. And they're fine with you because they are happy to see you happy. Like parents, they go to toy shops. And they're like, oh my gosh, why we're here? I don't care about this. I should go somewhere else. But you're happy to see your children happy. So we need to ask ourselves today, how much of my time is driven by my self-interest that sometimes says nobody else included but me? The more we are into this, the more obsession we're going to drive ourselves into. This egotism, this self-absorption kills us. That's why if you see in this message that had the affirmation spread out today, he says, obsession begins with mental intemperance when we are angry, upset, and sad, all these emotions. There is no moderation. We don't temper them. When we only care about our limitations. So there are people who have money and everything, but they look at themselves like, I'm not rich as I want to be. I know people who have everything and they feel they are not rich. I said, okay, I'm going to tell a story. You are 1% of the world. Because majority of the world doesn't have half of what you have. No, but I'm not rich. Okay, so you're in a bubble. That's why you think you're not rich. You have food. You can go out and eat. You can, it doesn't mean the best restaurants, but you can go out and eat. You can put gas easily. You can do everything. You have a car and a house, etc. But it's not enough. You feel the rich are only the billionaires. We're talking about rich, not billionaires. You want to be a billionaire? Be careful. You don't know what you're asking. Jesus warned us 2,000 years ago. You're going to fail again. And the worst, knowing of Christ and Spiritism. And as Divaldo Franco said once, he said, Vanessa, Joana de Angelis said this thing to me once. If you fail knowing of God, you're forgiven. If you fail knowing of Christ, you're forgiven. If you fail knowing of Spiritism, you won't easily forgive yourself. Because the knowledge we have is deep. Even if you disappear today from the Spiritist Center, we know enough. He says that obsession begins when we say unfortunate comments. That obsession begins when we're not willing to learn, to study. Obsession begins when we have remorse inside of us. Obsession begins when we do not accept ourselves with our difficulties and conflicts. Obsession happens in us when we do not want to persevere in the works of the good. Obsession is in us, self-obsession, when, and you see more because Daisy is going to go through more of this. So what are the dangers of being self-centered, of being self-absorbed? And that doesn't mean you think you're better than others. You think of yourself all day, all the time. Me, 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 me. You live in a good house. It doesn't need to be owned or rented. But you live in a good house, good neighborhood. And all the money you have is only for you and for your family. What's going to happen to us? And it's not about money. It's about our mental house. Right now, the children and the teens are expanding a study they started last week on our mental connections. What we think makes associations. So what kind of spirits are we connected with? This guy, he's in trouble. Why? Because he decided to be cruel, to humiliate, to use his authority to diminish people, to demean people. And now the consequences. We want to know how it works and the way out. That's why we gave the message about the therapeutic pathway. There is hope, okay? We don't want to be sad, but we want to be committed with our growth, right, Daisy? We're ready for you, Daisy. Thank you. So as Vanessa is saying, for us to get out of self-obsession, we first need to understand the mechanisms, right? How we're going to leave it if we don't understand ourselves. So today is a self-reflection, and we're going to go through this exercise. But first, let us understand the mechanism. We know through Spiritism that everything starts in our thoughts. If you want to learn more, there's a book by Emmanuel titled Thought is Life. And you can get here. There's studies on Kardec Radio. So everything starts in our minds. Even before we act upon it, it starts in our thoughts. And that's why the mentors of the Spirit Society of Virginia always train us to start with our thoughts. And of course, with our feelings. So let us understand this mechanism, because Emmanuel says that thoughts matter. What does he mean? He says that thought is a living and exteriorizing current with unmanageable self-excitation and self-plasticization faculties. Okay, those are very big words. What is he saying? First, he's saying that is a current. It's exteriorizing, so it goes out of ourselves. It has self-excitation, so it is chargeable, positive and negative. We're going to learn more with Emmanuel. But also it's self-plastic. We can mold it ourselves. So that saying that we hear, I'm just thinking, well, Spiritism comes and helps us understand that no, thought is matter. Maybe 1 millisecond, but it's there. And what happens next? Our thoughts and feelings are like images, like we see in this image right here. In a photo album, is our own personal scrapbook that we create ourselves every day. Our mental photo album. So as we think, we emit, we create these images that are with us, and they stay with us. Emmanuel and André Luiz describe to us in several books, but we live and breathe immersed in the atmosphere of the images that we create ourselves and we project with ourselves. So let us recap. We are spirit, enveloped by a very spirit, and we are immersed in this cosmic fluid. But as we think and we emit and we create these thought forms, it stays with us. We use this analogy with the kids inside, like a carnival costume. We see the carnival. Yes, that is exactly how we carry our thoughts and our feelings with us every day, like images. So why? Why is it important that we learn about this? Because we make spiritual connections. We're here to talk about spiritism. We cannot stop just there. We need to go one step further and understand why we need to study ourselves. Because we make connections. So what is the mechanism behind it? We think, we learn that thoughts is electromagnetic force. So it has a charge, positive and negative. As we think, we create these living images, that we carry those images with us. But those images, as we just learned, they have charge, so they're going to make connections. They stay in our mental field, and they also vitalize ourselves. So we are feeding ourselves with our thoughts. And as we make connections, we get to know in Spiritism with André Luiz and Emmanuel in several books that there's only two types of connections that we can make. What are they? We have constructive, positive connections or destructive. There is no in between. There's no neutral zone. So these images that are formed by us, not anyone else, our own thoughts, they make those connections. They're either positive or negative. And why is it important to understand that? Because that will determine the types of spirits that we connected with. We know we're here incarnate. 2/3 of the spirits on earth are in the spiritual realm. So if we have 20 people here in this room, we have at least, even more, 40 or more people in the spiritual realm. And we know there are many more. But imagine, every day, who are we connecting with through our day-to-day lives? If we're making good connections, which we'll learn what they are in more detail, we're connecting with good, happy spirits. But if we're making those negative or destructive connections, we're going to be connecting with those spirits who are not very happy. And we're being very kind here and respectful. But we learn in several books, including Liberation, there are spirits who literally wants to destroy our lives. Literally. Not because we're victims, because of our own actions. And they follow us, sometimes for reincarnations and reincarnations and reincarnations. But how we open the door? Because it starts on us. It's not poor me, it's the obsessors. No, today we're talking about self-obsession. How do we open the door for those spirits to come and literally destroy our lives? So let us go to the definition. Self-obsession, we learn in this book, first, Obsession, Disobsession by Sueli Caldas Schubert. We get to know that she coined the term self-obsession, and then Marlene Nobre, in this book, Obsession and Its Masks, they are in Portuguese, but if you speak Portuguese and you want to understand more the mechanisms, we get to know that self-obsession is this persistent negative thoughts about yourself, about ourselves. So let us break this down together because we need concrete examples. First, it's foremost, when we are selfish. Vanessa just shared with us. When all we think it's about my life, what is good for me, what is good for my family, what is in for me, right? There's this expression people use. Oh, can you do this for me? Oh, but what is in for me? The opposite of selfishness is selflessness, is to give of ourselves, is to be altruistic, even if it means that at the end, it will actually be detrimental for me, but I'm helping others. There's a passage in the book, it's not yet in English, but there's studies on Kardec Radio. In English, it would be Roadmap to Jesus. In Portuguese, Roteiro de Jesus. There's a passage, chapter 31, I believe, that talks about the greatest gift. And Jesus is there. There's that famous passage of the temple of the widow that comes, and she only has 2 coins. And everyone is there is making these big offerings at the temple, and Jesus is there watching with the disciples, and the widow comes and gives 2 coins. It's very well known in the New Testament, and Jesus said, that right there is true giving. But in this book, we get to know there's something else that happens later. After everyone leaves, Jesus stays behind with the disciples. The temple is empty. And they are there talking about what happened, the lessons. And without anyone noticing, but of course Jesus noticed because he's the master, a slave woman comes and very quietly, humbly start cleaning the temple, organizing the chairs. No one even pay attention, right? But then before they leave, Jesus says, the true lessons for us here today, the one that gave more than anyone else is not the widow, is that slave woman, because she's giving of her sweat. That is true giving. So if we want to get out of self-obsession, that is the rule. But if we're there, our days, just thinking about how can I make more money? When I'm going to be able to retire, and we are making the math. I was talking with a friend the other day. Her son is less than 1 year old. Actually, just turned 1. And they're like, oh no, but now, besides saving for retirement, we're saving for university, and so on and so on. I was like, wow. We're not being judgmental, but let us think. Is that how we want to live? Thinking about our family, what is good for us, when there's truly people, we don't need to go to Africa to see suffering. We can literally go to the stoplights here in Chantilly, to the streets of Washington, D.C., and we see people who don't have where to live. So that is self-obsession. The next one is guilt. And it's actually, guilt is something so predominant in our society. It's hard to talk with someone that doesn't have guilt. Why? Because we're humans. We're here learning. We make mistakes. But we need to know how to work on that feeling inside ourselves. If we have feelings of guilt and remorse, don't put it under the rug. No, because we're open doors for obsession. Go look for a therapist. Talk about it. Talk about it. Get a spiritual treatment in the Spiritist Center. There are so many avenues to help us get rid of that guilt. Why? Because as Vanessa just told us, it doesn't need to be in other lives. In this life, we're going to see the consequences. And then we see people get in their elderly years with all types of degenerative disorders, mental disorders. We go here to the nursing home and we see how sad it is to get to our elderly years with so much guilt. So let us work on that. As Vanessa was sharing with us this morning in our study, saying, we are children of God. We make mistakes. So let us tell ourselves, let us look ourselves in the mirror and say, I forgive myself. Bless the past. Thanks to the past, we're here today. But we are children of God. If Paul of Tarsus, who literally persecuted Christians, was able to, in the same life, turn things around, and he didn't stay there like, poor me, oh my gosh, I did so much, I'm gonna hide in this cave and never get out. No, he recomposed himself, and in the same life, and because of him, we're here today, because he spread Christianity to the Gentiles. Next. I know it's a workout of the soul today, but we need to study ourselves to identify, not to feel guilty. Let us identify so we can work on it, so it's more power for us. Jealous and envy. We talked about this on Friday, but let us talk again, because we open social media and then we see, great, people post. They are traveling, they are at the beach, or, they are posting, they are in restaurants and they're happy. Great, but how do we feel? Do we look at that and we truly feel happy for the person? Like, good for you. Or deep inside, we're like, oh, I wish I was there. Oh, wow. They're staying in this hotel? Let me look it up. I wonder how much it costs. Oh, they got that car. Oh, maybe it's time for me to change my car. And that's how we think. Because we still live in our society that we compare ourselves to others. And that is so sick, because we are imprisoning ourselves in the self-obsession. Because then we're always comparing ourselves to others. Oh, I need that bigger house because of that. Oh, I need that car or that trip or those clothes. And then we're always comparing, or we think we're better. We go to places, to our workplaces, to our communities, even inside our own families. And we say, people wash the dishes, and we're like, oh, but you forgot that. I would have done much better. And we think we're superior. So the problem is not if other people have that. We're here today thinking about ourselves. If we are having those sentiments. What is the opposite? We talked about, feeling superior, but the opposite, and unfortunately something so common, especially with teens, preteens, the sentiments of self-doubt, lack of self-esteem. We talk with preteens nowadays and all they think about is body image. And adults too, but as parents also, and educators, we need to think about. But having the sentiments of, loving ourselves, bless this body. How many people say, oh, I'm not good enough? And they keep that thought in their mind. Oh, I didn't get the promotion. I'm not good enough. Oh, the boss didn't ask me to give that presentation. Oh, I'm not good enough. And they themselves are self-sabotaging them because they're putting themselves down, saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to get there. Poor me. Who am I? I'm not anyone. So I'm just going to stay here. But they don't know that they're staying there. They're only hurting themselves, but they're hurting others too. So if we have that, let's work on it. We're going to talk more how to get out of it. But nowadays we have so many resources. We can do affirmations. There are apps you can put on our phones, and every few minutes they give us positive affirmations to empower ourselves, not to feel superior, but to love ourselves. How are we going to love others if we don't love ourselves first? Sueli Calder-Schubert talks about now there's a term, so interesting. There's a terminology called health anxiety. What is this? I'm sure we've seen, if not in our family, sometimes we are like this. What is this? Oh, we have a headache. And they were like, oh my gosh, I have a brain tumor. No, it's terminal. Or we have something in our chest. We're like, I'm having a heart attack. Oh my gosh. And then we start Googling it, right? Mayo Clinic, and then so many other things online, and you're putting all your symptoms. There's a terminology in science now called health anxiety. People that go to the pharmacy and they buy half of the medication and they're self-medicating themselves. Yes, that leads us to self-obsession. The next one. We talk about those who worry about their health, but now Sueli talks about excessive eating, unhealthy habits. In our mediumistic meetings, we have spirits who come and they say, I need food. Give me food. I'm hungry. I want to eat. Why? It's so sad. Because all they thought and all they did, they said, I had diabetes. And then we discarnate, we think we're going to be in paradise. No, we're going to stay with the same thoughts, that mental field that we created. We're going to stay there because that's what the atmosphere we created for ourselves. So if we wake up and we're already thinking, what I'm having for lunch, what I'm having for dinner, in like an obsessive way, and all we think about is food, let us watch ourselves. Because when we pass, as Mentor Joseph kindly shared with us the other day, we're going to get to the spiritual realm and, there's, no sweets, no bread. No, there's no food. So let us train ourselves now. But also unhealthy habits, laziness. When we always want to, take the easy road. We don't want to give the sweat as the woman the temple. We want to take the easy life. She talks about people who dramatize their day-to-day occurrence. It's so interesting, right? Because this is so common. You talk to people and you see in social media, and something so small, and people make their whole day. I remember once talking with someone and they said, every day I come to work, there's someone there at the parking lot, they smile at me. And that one day they didn't smile, it ruined my day. Wow. So are we dramatizing day-to-day occurrence? Because we will. Okay, bless them. They were not having a good day, right? Did we smile all the time to everyone? No. So if we are there making a drama, oh, this is supposed to be here. You forget to put it there. And then we created a drama inside our houses because this is supposed to be here and it was here. This creates self-obsession. When we worry about situations that might never occur, preoccupation, right? When we are preoccupied of the events that have not even unfolded and will probably not even unfold in the future, but we are sitting here worried. Oh my gosh, this is gonna happen or that's gonna happen. What's gonna happen? And people are, instead of living the present, they are somewhere else, but not here. And then we end with two very important ones that Vanessa already mentioned. The sarcastic humor. Thinking we're being funny, but at the end of the day, if we're being sarcastic, we're saying what we really deep mean it, but we're saying a sarcastic way. We think, oh, it's just a joke. No. What is sarcastic to you, it's probably not funny to other people. So we learn Spiritism, the problems with sarcasm. And it's something that's so predominant, especially here in the United States. And we're going to talk about how sarcasm leads to self-obsession when we talk about the case from liberation. And last but not least, and this list, friends, could go on and on. We chose some of the major for us to go home and reflect today. But one of them is sexual imbalances. On Friday, we're having a whole series of studies talking about it. But how we're using our sexual creative forces. There are people who think throughout the day about sex, about, how to pleasure themselves, and they live their lives. We already talk here so much about pornography and so many other things, but that it's something we need to work on. Why? All of this, it leads to this single idea. And that is where we're going to get to self-obsession. Because in all the situations, it's this persistent negative thought around ourselves, all around ourselves. And then we stay in this mono idea. That's why we put the circle. Because we learn, especially in the book Liberation, that this mono idea, when we discarnate, there are spirits that they stay in this oval form. They lose their human form in their paraspiritual body because they are there in this single idea, thinking me, 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 and me. And this leads us to self-obsession, which then connected us with legions. It's not just one or two, it's legions of spirits who think and feel the same. If all we think is about eating, we're gonna attract spirits that just think about eating. If we are feeling jealous and envy, we're gonna attract spirits who are jealous and envy. And so on and so forth. So let us share this case of the book Liberations. Another case is the case of a writer. And he's already discarnate. Different from the policeman that Vanessa just talked to us about, this man is in the spiritual realm. And he starts describing by saying, I was a man of letters, so he was a writer. But I was never interested in the serious side of life. I cultivated a sarcastic humor with a taste of erotism, which I offered to young people at the time. Okay, friends, let us pause here. Is this different than we see on Netflix, Hulu, or all the other different streaming platforms nowadays? Is it this erotism? It's hard to find a TV show nowadays. And it's not only, it's explicit sex, and it's in open TV or open streaming. This sarcastic, dark humor. So this is for us. And he said he cultivated this in young minds. So what is the aftermath? Okay, it's hard to summarize in our words, so we're going to read it. Because he says, what happens after? Ever since I died, I've been constantly hounded by the victims of my subtle insinuations. They won't leave me alone for a minute. Okay, it's not a real obsessor, right? It's his own creations, these images that he created. The own images are persecuting him. That's why self-obsession. It doesn't depend on someone else. He continued, I realized that ever since my earthly existence, I've been connected with a huge gang of perverse and mocking spirits that use me as a reckless tool for their undesirable manifestation. Actually, I had within my own mind frivolous and malicious material, which they largely exploited. So he openly said, I opened the door because I was frivolous. I was malicious. So, as we see in this picture, he attracted a gang of spirits. He says, strange thought forms confuse my inner world as if they have become encrusted in my imagination. So what is the end result? Was he happy in the spiritual realm? No. He was actually a wandering spirit, and there are many of them. Yes, they wandered aimlessly on the streets. He said, these images, they live within me in my thought. In my hand as a writer, I created this to anesthetize the dignity of others. Now these images, they attack me, they tease me, they frail me, as if they are children rebelling against a criminal father. I have been living aimlessly, as a mental case that no one can understand. That's why, friends, people go to doctors, psychologists, and they talk to them, and they cannot find a problem. Physically, mentally, they cannot find a problem. Why? Because of self-obsession. Okay, we want to know how to get out of it, right? Do we want to get out of it, please? Okay, we will get there. But before, can I ask you guys for help? Okay, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to give you guys an activity. We're going to do it. It's quick, okay? Your pens. Those online, you can do it yourself. You don't need the template. But here's the task, okay? Because before we go to the remedy, because we want to know the remedy, we need to know first, where are we? So the question is, write down your top 3 thoughts of the day. Don't think about it in a terms like, don't overthink it. What are the top 3 things you think about the day? And this is for you, okay? We're not gonna ask you to share, so please be transparent with yourselves. If you wake up thinking about food, it's okay. Let us write that down so we can learn ourselves. If we wake up and throughout the day we think money, 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 let us put that down. If we think about our health, so Again, this is an exercise for us. 3 things, okay? And you can take it home and reflect so that we friends, we only gonna get there once we learn about ourselves. So give it another minute. So inside with the children, because we're talking about this mental, it's a mental photo book, we ask them to draw. So ideally, we are here to simplify, we're writing it, but imagine that is a mental image. Those 3 thoughts of the day or more, right? Because we have many, they are images. Remember, we talked about it in the previous slides. They stay with us. Okay, so that's why we put this picture of the man, the little person with the blocks, right? Because that's how we carry those things around with us. Okay, let's go to the remedy, right? Oh, okay, we got there. So, how to get out? How to avoid or get out of self-obsession? Okay, first, learn to think positive. Okay, this might be simple, but it's not, right? We know it. But science proof, and if you want to learn more, we want to recommend this book by this incredible psychologist, Dr. Martin Seligman, called Learned Optimism. He started talking about optimism even before. Nowadays there is a whole area of psychology titled positive psychology, but he shows us, and many other scholars after him, that optimism can, 1, protect against depression. Okay, friends, we're not even going to spiritism yet, right? We're talking about science here. Protects against depression. Optimism can raise your levels of achievement, so boosting our self-esteem, as we were talking earlier. It can enhance our physical and mental well-being. Optimism can make us happier. And optimism, look at this, can help us live longer. We want to live longer? Yes, let's be optimistic. How? He has proven scientific ways that we can learn more in this book, but we learn before Dr. Salomon with Emmanuel in the book Thought is Life. He says, do we want to get rid of our shackles of the past? We bring our past with us. We talk about guilt. He says, feel the good, think about the good, say good things, mold the good. So that thought comes, I'm not good enough. Say, no, I'm a child of God. God gave me this reincarnation. I can do it. Yes, we can, right? We tell ourselves, yes, I can. The feelings of guilt comes. We say, we bless, we pray for that past, and we move forward. So being positive and optimistic Not being the happily bubbly. No, he's saying be optimist. Challenges come and we think if God is allowing me to go through this, it's because there is a reason. I trust you, God. We cannot be positive and optimistic without God. First and foremost, having faith, trusting in God, because God is with us. But it doesn't stop there. The second key for us today, and that is the highlight, is going back to the women in the temple, is to truly be altruistic, to serve others, to give of ourselves. Friends, again, it's proven by science. If you want to read, there are many books. This book, The Second Mountain by David Brooks, so interesting because he makes this parallel with two mountains. He talks about happiness. And he says in his study, he's seen that the first mountain of happiness is that happiness that we see nowadays. Oh, you need to have this career, this title, this family, this house. And then he interviews and he researches and he says people get everything that they quote unquote ever want. And he interviewed them. Are you happy? No. There is something missing. There is a void inside themselves. And then he goes and says, then they fall. Because then, well, if money, fame would solve our own problems, Hollywood will be so happy, right? There will be no suicides, no divorce, no depression, right? But now, then people start asking themselves, what are you missing? Because I'm not fulfilled. And that's when they go to the second mountain. And then he says, it's not about happiness, it's about joy. Joy is the true happiness. How do we get that joy? He says, and we quote, the people who radiate a permanent joy, they have given themselves over to life so deep and loving commitment, not to themselves, commitment to others. Giving has become their nature, and little by little they have made their souls incandescent. Friends, he's not a spiritist. He doesn't label himself as spiritism, but you read the book and it's incredible. Because he talks about this flame inside themselves. That is what he calls the moral joy. Is when we think about a cause greater than ourselves. That is the second mountain. And he's not the only one. Dr. Salomon and so many others talk about this. This true state of happiness will only get there if we serve others. So this idea of me, mine, it's crossed out. We're not gonna get there. And then Spiritism comes. Jesus came 2,000 years ago. And what did he teach us? Exactly this. So there's no, you see how beautiful it is, how science comes and validates what we have learned for so long. Be altruistic. Let's go home today reflecting on this. And we're going to end with the bowl, okay? Because then it's not our words. But we're going to end with Dalai Lama. So let us watch this together. Because Dalai Lama is going to bring us the recommendation today.
There's a lot of people my age that struggle with anxiety and depression. If you had the ability to whisper in the ear an advice or a lesson to every single young person in the world, what would it be and why?
Too much self-centered attitude. Me. Then anxiety. The antidote of self-centered attitude, altruism. Very important factor for physical health. Now I'm 84-year-old, but my mind, some of my friends used to express, is quite young, like young. So it's nothing special. If I too much emphasis, I'm Tibetan, I'm Buddhist, I'm Dalai Lama. Then you yourself actually isolated by yourself. Then more anxiety. So altruism, that automatically reduces anxiety, frustration. Thank you.
Hi. There's a lot of people my age that struggle with anxiety.
Friends, we cannot top that. So let us go home thinking about those words and working on the affirmations that we got. That's our homework. Okay?
The children actually watched it too. So we're all on the same page. As a family, we can all be on the same page, all right? Anybody has any question or comment before I go to the passes? Altruism, which is thinking of others before ourselves. We do that, we'll be happy. All right, so let us now move to the passes. For those who are over the internet, you stay tuned. We're recording, but when it shows, you can receive the passes, whatever you are. Bring your glass of water. Thank you, Tony. Let us prepare ourselves. The good spirits are always ready to help us. Let us help ourselves. And say, as I told Virginia yesterday, I said, Virginia, when you think of yourself in less ways, you tell, I'm a child of God. I deserve everything that God's provided to me. Always, we need to say that. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. If anything frustrates you, you say, I am peace, I'm light, I'm joy of living. I am a co-creator. So let us co-create, helping one another. When you're not here receiving the passes, it's your opportunity to give. Even if you're seated, you can hold the current for everyone, emanating good energies, so the good spirits can operate better. All right? So let us prepare ourselves, friends. So let us help one another by visualizing our beloved Master Jesus, the doctor of all doctors. He's our best friend. our doctor, our therapist. Master Jesus, we see you, your smile, and we visualize your healing hands applying onto us the energy medicine that we need. Let us visualize Master Jesus, who is our best friend, always. He's the governor of the earth. He has a beautiful heart, a heart of compassion and love, and He's pure light, radiating now onto us His loving energies, permeating us, make us stronger, protected. Let us feel it. Let us help one another, visualizing a field of lavender flowers and the perfume of the lavender flowers permeating ourselves to create calmness. The color of the flowers enveloping us in kindness and much love. So let us all now keep visualizing the spirit doctors who are in front of us. And they are offering the treatment that we need for the mind and the bodies. Let us also visualize our homes, especially our bedrooms, and see the light of God's love cleansing the environment from our thoughts and feelings that are no longer needed. New life, new beginnings, renewal. Let us all help now one another in the good spirits who are here by visualizing a beautiful waterfalls of healing light passing through us, cleansing minds and bodies, displacing toxins, healing us deeply, strengthening the mind and the bodies. We visualize the spirit doctors applying this shower of healing onto each one of us. Let us visualize our beloved Mother Mary, her sacred heart, her loving care, her kind embrace enveloping us in true balance, mind and bodies. Let us make a decision inside of us to let go of aggressions and to embrace true kindness in thoughts and feelings first. Let us visualize her presence amongst us. Let us then visualize the healing hands of the spirit doctors here present, approaching with their healing touch onto each one of us. Let us visualize them bringing flowers to us and bring these flowers close to our hearts to harmonize our emotions, to make us feel more balanced. Let us close our eyes, visualizing our beloved Master Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life to each one of us. Let us bring him so close to our hearts, allowing his aura to envelop us. And let us together in one mind to pray. Beloved Master Jesus, today we want to make a conscious effort to connect with you, with the good spirits, with the works of the good. We know so much more, and this empowers us to make changes in our lives. We thank you, Divine Master, for inspiring us and pushing us to this new era. And we want to pray to the discarnate spirits that are here too. Pray that they also receive these feelings of gratitude, of hope in the future. We also pray for all of us in both realms to remain committed and aligned to the divine works. We are being called to do so much more. We thank you always, Divine Master, for bringing us together every Sunday and allowing the good spirits to deliver the message that we need. And with your permission and under your protection always, we ask to close this meeting, and so be it.